Hello, everyone. Counterspell Hater here, back with another EDH guide. We're at 73 subscribers. Could you guys at least stay subscribed? Uh, just a small favor. Um, because now I can't say I'm at like 74, and although I don't want to be stuck at 74, I want to keep on going up. So, in order for me to keep going up in subscribers, all you have to do is subscribe and leave a like on this video. You are legally inclined to do it. Just as legally inclined you are to comment on this video, um, and make an EDH request. First come, first serve. Make sure the commander you are requesting hasn't already been featured on this channel yet. And even if it has, you can still make a request for like a specific style of that deck. So like a Voltron style of a deck or commander that has already been featured on this channel is a request that can be made. You just type it along with the name of the commander in the request you're making, and I will keep my end of the bargain. But anyways, if you don't want to make an EDH request, leave positive feedback anyways. And could you guys also another small favor, give me the option to translate to English. I appreciate support, but sometimes I'm only fluent in English. But if you can't, then that's fine. Just comment anyways. Make sure it's positive. Um, Even if I can't translate it, I know you're supporting the channel, and that's all that really counts. And share this video along with other videos found on my channel with other people. You are legally inclined to do that too. Along with hitting the notification bell. That way you don't miss another one of my videos. You are also legally inclined to not use counter spells. With that said, let's get to this EDH guide starring Cadric, Soul Kindler from Dominar United Commander. Excuse me. So this is an exciting commander because of what it does. The legend rule doesn't apply to tokens you control. In case you are uneducated on the legend rule, it is the rule that states, quote, you cannot have more than one of the same legendary permanents. If you do, then you must sacrifice one of those legendary permanents. So say I have two Cadric Soul Kindlers out at the same time. Well, I can't have that according to the legend rule, which means I must sacrifice one of them. But because of Cadric, the legend rule doesn't apply to tokens we control, which is where his second line of text comes in, stating that whenever we play another non-token legendary permanent enters battlefield under our control, not just creatures, but permanents. So you can go whack with this, because you can pay one to create a token that's a copy of it. And that token gains haste as well, because it's sacrificed at the beginning of the next end step. And trust me, with this, you can do a lot. Such as produce a lot of mana from Alina, Kesig Trapper, who can tap to add an amount of red mana equal to the greatest power among creatures you control that enter the battlefield this turn. You play this out with Cadric, you pay one, and in turn you get only God knows how much, depending on how many creatures, what creatures you have played on that turn. Because the copy of Alina here will gain haste, meaning you are able to tap it for red mana immediately or attack with it. Aurelia, the War Leader, flying vigilance and haste, whether it's on the token or the original. Either way, whenever we attack for the first time each turn, whether it's the token or the original, we're getting we untap all creatures we control, and we get an additional combat phase after this one. And since both of these attack at the same time because they have haste, we'll be getting 2 combats on 1 turn. But then we'll, at the end of that turn that we gain those 2 combats from both Aurelias, the token copy of Aurelia will be sacrificed. But still, which is why you should make the most of it while you still can. So attack with both to get the most value. And that can also end up closing out a game. Ryu, Storm's Edge. Whenever a samurai or warrior you control attacks alone, you untap it. If it's the first combat phase of the turn, there's an additional combat phase after this phase. So more combat. Karlak, Fury of Avernus. Same thing. Adrina, Captain of the Guard, gives our other creatures melee. However, with 2 out, our creatures have melee twice over, which means they will have melee be triggering twice and buffing them up twice whenever we attack. And the more opponents we attack, the stronger those creatures are going to get. Whether we have 2 of these or just the 1 original. Still a nice card. Duke Older Raven Guard. At the beginning of combat on your turn, another target creature you control gains haste and myriad until a turn. So you could give the non-token original legendary creature that you played in a turn, give it haste and myriad until end of turn, meaning you can swing with both the token copy that has haste thanks to Cadric and the original because of the haste and myriad given to Duke Ulder Raven Guard. I cannot pronounce words today. And in case you are uneducated on myriad, whenever a creature with myriad attacks, for each opponent other than the defending player, you may and probably will create a token that's a copy of that creature that's tapped and attacking that player or a planeswalker they control. You exile those tokens at the end of combat. Which means, and because of Cadric, you can have those tokens on the battlefield because the legendary rule does not apply to tokens you control. Meaning you could give like Adrena, Captain of the Guard here, haste and myriad, even though that won't do anything good for you because you'll already be attacking, in which case melee will have already triggered. Probably will want to target something not Mirage Phalanx, but still Mirage Phalanx nonetheless is a good card, even though it's non-legendary because of Soul Bond. As long as it's paired with another creature, each of those creatures has, at the beginning of combat on your turn, create a token that's a copy of this creature, except it has haste and loses Soulbound. Exile at the end of combat. But something to copy with Myriad would be not Aurelia, because she triggers on combat at the beginning of combat on your turn, but still nice creature to have in this deck because of Mentor and flying. Not to mention, you choose up to 1 target creature you control, and that creature gets +2/+0, gains trample if it's red, and if it's white, it gains vigilance, and if it's both colors, it gains both of those benefits. So, and having 2 Aurelias, at least on 1 turn, means you get to buff up at least 2 creatures or 1 creature both times. But something from Myriad would be Gisela, Blade of Gold Knight, who doubles damage done to an opponent or a permanent opponent controls. Imagine having like what, 4? Yeah, 4. 4 copies of Gisela, Blade of Gold Knight in one turn. 3 of them attacking your opponents, along with everything else. Not to mention, if a source would deal damage to you or a opponent you control, prevent half the damage rounded up, you're doing that 4 times. So now any damage that will be dealt to you on that turn is only dealing an eighth of what it normally would be, if my math is correct. No, 16th? I think it would be a 16th or no, it'd be a 16th. It'd be a 16th. I think. But still, like, basically, the turn you do this, you play out Gisela, Blade of Gold Knight, is a turn where you have majorly reduced damage against that is dealt against you and your permanents, and heavily modified damage against your opponents. So great card to have. Definitely recommend it in this deck because of what it does. Italic Primal Storm. We get 2 of these out, and we are able to give one of them haste. The original haste. Then on that turn, we're going to quite possibly be getting 8 free spells off of the 2 for each player at the table if we're in a 4-way. So good card to have. Definitely recommend you play it in this deck, but you don't have to because this is a guide, not a must, which means you can use some of the cards, none of the cards, all of the cards. Really depends on how you want to play. Dracuseth, Maw of Flames, allows us to put some pressure on our opponents with its attack trigger, especially if we're able to attack with both the token and the original. That's because then it ends up being like 10 damage spread across like 6 targets. 4 damage to 2 of those targets, 3 damage to the other 4. That could be like that could be 6 tokens dead. Elish Norn, Grand Genobite. The turn we get this out is the turn our opponents are also in a lot of trouble if we get this out while we are able to pay with Cadric, because other creatures we control are now getting +4/+4 on that turn instead of +2/+2 normally. However, more importantly, creatures our opponents control are not getting -2/-2 on, at least on that turn. No, they're getting a full -4/-4 on that turn, which means this could kill off a lot of tokens. So this could be like a hardcore counter to like landfall decks playing Rampaging Balos. And if you get more tokens that are copies of Elish Norn, Grand Genobite, then that's going to be more and more creatures that your opponents are going to have dead. My mind is just, what I'm saying is that the more Elish Norns you have, the less likely your opponent is to survive. There we go. Because you're buffing up your creatures by a whole bunch and putting a lot of negative power and toughness effects onto their creatures. That's what I meant to say. Achroma, Vision of Ixidor, could buff up all of our creatures a lot, depending on how many keywords they have. So if you're playing like it's either Odric Master, it's one of the 2 Odrics. I don't think it's Master Tactician, but Master Tactician is still pretty good because he can force your opponent to just not block if you know what you're doing. But Achroma, Vision of Ixidor, not a bad card, especially if you have a lot of legendary creatures in here with a lot of keywords. like Akoma, Angel of Wrath, who has flying, first strike, vigilance, trample, haste, protection from black and from red. That means something that isn't black and or red has to be able to block this, and it has to have either reach or flying. It has to have decently high toughness to be able to survive because of first strike. If it's like a creature with like 6 or less toughness, it's gonna get wiped out before it can do any damage, even if it has reach. Even if it's like a deadly recluse with reach and death touch, that's still gonna die because the deadly recluse is a 2/4. And the other thing is trample. Not to mention haste and protection from black and from red. Another problem with that is that this cannot be targeted by any of your standard removal spells. You can't like shock this thing to death or anything. You either use like the blue method, which is to return this to its owner's hand, or there is green, which green does have spells that destroy flyers. But other than that, you might be in some trouble, especially if you combine this one with Acroma, Vision of Exodore. And heck, if you're able to play both these out on the turn, pay for Cadric's activated ability, you're gonna have 2 of these of this Acroma, 2 of this one as well, giving like flying first strike, trample, haste. Does say protection? Yep. 3, 4, 5, 6. No, plus 12 if you're able to get out a Chroma Vision of Exodore and a Chroma Angel of Wrath and pay for Cadric for both of them, which would be pretty expensive, but still, if you're able to do it, then you're going to have at least like 2 creatures that are flying in the air, have haste, protection from black and from red, first strike, vigilance, trample, and are 18 base power and toughness, not base power and toughness creatures, but power and toughness creatures, which is 36 damage. I don't think I need to explain much more. I'm kind of falling behind. Mirage, Fury of Akham is just here for extra combat and to buff up our creatures for each time they have attacked this turn. If we get multiple Mirages out, that's more combat steps we get for each land we are able to play. Commander Lyra? Porter? I don't know. Can help us cast more stuff within a turn and help us dig for some answers. Cadric, Master Tactician. As I said, you can eat if you're attacking with 3 or more creatures, which you will be probably in this deck. Then you can just force your opponents to just not block, because you get to choose how the creatures block, which means you get to choose whether or not they block anything at all, and how they block, if they do block anything, I believe. Adeline Respondent Cathar is in here because its power is equal to the number of creatures we control. If we have played out a lot of legendary creatures and have copied them with our commander, then this is going to be big by the time we play it. And that token that's a copy of this is going to have haste and vigilance. And whenever we attack for each opponent, we create a 1/1 human creature token that's tapped and attacking that player or a planeswalker they control. And if we attack which we will on the turn with having 2 Adelines out, we're gonna get at least like 6 tokens out. Lena, Selfless Champion. When she enters the battlefield, we create a 1/1 white silver token for each non-token creature we control, and we double up on that with Cadric. And then we can sacrifice her to give creatures we control with power less than hers to gain indestructible until end of turn. Sorry if I'm mixing everything up. Brian Stout Arm, he has lifelink, and it's also another legendary creature, Giant Warrior. We can start flinging stuff at our opponents if they have just way too many blockers. And because it's Brian Stout Arm dealing the damage equal to the sacrifice creature's power to target player, we're going to be gaining that much life because of lifelink. Franco, Mob Boss. We play this out. We pay for Cadric. We get a token that's a copy of Cranko, and we can immediately tap that token copy of Cranko here to create some goblins, at least 2 on that turn. And then later we tap this one, the turn after that, to create 3. So this can really snowball out. Franco 10 Street Kingpin can also create a good amount of goblins. At least some the turn we create the token that's a copy of it. And if we're able to buff it up as well. Just like Lilia, the Blade Reforged. My thoughts are kind of scrambled. She gets stronger as we exile more and more cards from our library and or graveyard. And when she attacks, we can exile the top card of the library and we can play that card this turn. Urabrask, Heretic Predator, helps us dig for more answers, has haste, and helps our opponent dig too, but they avoid their draw step. Halo Fountain can win us the game because if we get out enough tokens, we can just tap 5. We can use quintuple white mana to tap Halo Fountain and untap 15 tap creatures we control, and then we win the game. But this can also make us some tokens. Song of the World Soul. When you cast a spell Populate, create a token that's a copy of a creature token you control. This includes our legendary tokens. And because of Cadric, we're able to have multiples of them. So as we're casting more and more, Song of the World Soul is going to create us more and more of those tokens. So that could be multiple Cranko Mob Boss tokens, or Brian Stout Arms, or Itali Primal Storms, or even more of an absurd choice, Gisela Blade of Gold Knight. Really depends on what legendary creature you have out at the time. Definitely would recommend Song of the World Soul. Yadara, Wandering Monster, can draw us cards thanks to cycling, and if we end up cycling it enough, we just get it out for 2 mana instead of its 7. And it has Trample and Haste, and if we're able to pay for it, which most likely we will, because it's only 2 mana, with Cadric, we'll get another one. So we'll have 16 damage at the ready. Linden, the Steadfast Queen, to help us stay in the game, especially on the turn we play her, if we have Cadric out. Urabrask the Hidden, just to give all of our stuff haste. The token copy isn't necessary, so you may not end up copying this, but if you want to, and if you need the damage to finish someone off, by all means do. But creatures your opponent's control also enter the battlefield tapped. There's no point in stacking that effect. And creatures you control have haste, so you can attack with both the token copy and the non-token original legendary creature that you play out and copy with Cadric. Benny Brax, Zoologist, is just in here to draw some cards. Inspiring Leader, and this is a legendary enchantment background. And Cadric says, whenever a non-token legendary permanent, not creature, permanent, enters the battlefield, we can pay 1 generic and create a token that's a copy of it. meaning that the turn we play this, we can pay 1 generic, and suddenly our commander has creature tokens you control get +2/+2 twice, which means creature tokens on that turn we control will have +4/+4. But then when that turn ends, it'll just be +2/+2. Because the token of inspiring leader will go away. Far Traveler is actually an amazing card. Would recommend it highly because commander creatures you own have at the beginning of your end step exile up to 1 target tapped creature you control and return it to the battlefield under its owner's control. So, and because of how Cadric works, the tokens you create with him are sacrificed at the next end step. So say you create a token with Cadric on your turn. The next end step would be your end step on that turn. So then you would sacrifice that token on that turn. However, if you created a token with Cadric after the end step trigger, so that like at the end of the end step of your end step, you would be able to create a token that would last until until the next end step, which would be the player's end step who goes after. So you can do some tricky stuff with this. So I'd highly recommend it. In fact, if you're able to flash stuff out, what you can do is the player who goes before you do, at the end of their end step, which is when normally Cadric would check. In fact, let me check text just to see. Yeah, sacrifice it. Yeah, sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. So what you can do is at the end of the end step of the player's turn, the player who goes before you, you could use Cadric to create a token if you're able to flash something out, a token that's a copy of a legendary permanent, and it would last into your turn. Which means you could probably do some weird and janky stuff with that. So I recommend Far Traveler. Noble Heritage. Commander creature we own have when this creature enters battlefield and at the beginning of your upkeep, each player may put 2 +++ counters on a creature they control. For each opponent who does, you gain protection from that player until your next turn, meaning you can be targeted, dealt damage, or enchanted by anything controlled by that player. Don't think I have to explain anything else. Ellen Harbree's Busybody can help us look for more stuff to play and copy with Cadric, so nice creature to have. Very good God of Storytelling on one side. We're probably going to be using this side to cast more legendary creatures on our turn and pay for them. We've got Harnfell, Horn of Bounty, which we can discard a card to exile the top 2 cards of our library, and we can play those cards this turn. But most likely, we'll be playing Burgundy God of Storytelling to help us with mana. Redain, God of the Worthy, causes our snowlands, our opponent's control to enter the battlefield tapped, and non-creature spells our opponent's control, our opponent's cast with converted mana cost 4 greater, costs 2 more to cast. And then we've got Valmira Protector's Shield, which says if a source an opponent controls would deal damage to you or a permanent you control, prevent 1 of that damage. If we've copied this, we're going to be preventing 2 of that damage or more. Depends on how many copies of the Valmira we have. And whenever you or another permanent you control becomes the target of a spell or ability an opponent controls, counter that spell or ability unless its controller pays 1 generic. And we've got another broken one, Thran Temple Gateway. We play this out, and then we can pay 4 mana to each of those on that same turn that we copied the original Thran temporal gateway and cheat out 2 legendary permanents or historic permanents. Artifacts, legendaries, and sagas are historic. So what we would do is we play out Thran for 4, copy it with Cadric for 1, use 8 mana, divided amongst those two copies of Thran, the original and then the token, and then we cheat out 2 legendary permanents. So this could be like 2 really big legendary creatures, like Akroma Angel of Wrath and Akroma Vision of Ixidor. So it'll help us cheat out more of stuff, is what I'm saying. Urza's Ruinous Blast is a great board wipe in this deck because it exiles all 9-land permanents that aren't legendary. Excuse me. The Circle of Loyalty costs 1 less to cast for each night we control. Creatures we control get +1/+1. Whenever we cast a legendary spell, we create a 2/2 white knight creature token with vigilance. So in this deck, this is very good because this can create us a whole bunch of tokens as we're casting more and more legendary spells. Would definitely recommend you put Circle of Loyalty into this deck. And we can just pay 3 generic and a white to tap this to create a 2/2 white knight creature token with vigilance. Aetherworks Marvel is in here in case of a board wipe. And if need be, we flesh this out. Because then we can pay, I believe that's 6 energy to look at the top 6 cards of our library and cast a card from among them without paying its mana cost. That can get us back into the game really fast. Hell Vault. We get 2 of these out. We can exile target creature, 2 target creatures we control within a turn. One with the token copy, the other with the original. And then when Hellfall is put into graveyard from the battlefield, return all cards exiled with it to the battlefield under their owner's control. Now, if it said leaves, maybe, but still, what I think would happen here is if we use the other activated ability to exile target creature we don't control, because tokens don't go into the graveyard, if the Hell Vault token that we use to exile a target creature we don't control just doesn't go into the graveyard, then the creature we exiled with it does not come back, I'm pretty sure. Unlike the original Hell Vault, which can be put into our graveyard or exiled, in which case we won't get that creature back. No one will get their creatures back that were exiled. So something kind of tricky there. Sword of the Animist, help us ramp. The Immortal Sun, I've gone over this and I'll go over it again. Players can't activate Planeswalker's loyalty abilities, which can stop something very bad from happening that could just end the game and cause you to lose. At the beginning of your draw step, draw an additional card. Spells you cast cost 1 the generic, less to cast. Creatures you control get +1/+1. I don't think I need to explain much more about this card. Paradox Engine. If we have 2 of these out, whenever we cast a spell, we untap all non-land permanents we control twice, which we can do some really janky stuff with that. Gonti's Aetherheart. When it or another artifact enters the battlefield under our control, we get 2 energy counters, and then we can pay. What is that? Like 8? Yeah, 8. And exile Gonti's Aetherheart. Take an extra turn after this one. If we're able to both play this, copy it, play enough artifacts to get enough energy counters to exile the token, then that's going to be pretty sweet. Because then that ends up, because also it's easier to get to that point to pay 8 energy counters, well, to have 8 energy counters to pay in the first place, because we'll have 2 2 of Gonti's Aether Heart, the token and the original. So not bad. Mindslaver. We can take control of 2 players during their next turn with this. I don't think I need to go on. But Elkanori allows us to play our cards as though they had flash. So like I was saying, we flash something out that's legendary. We pay for Cadric's triggered ability. And we could have that token that is a copy of that legendary permanent that we flashed out last till our next end step. If we played the original at the end of the end step of the player who goes before us. Make sense? Just don't think about it too hard. Chromatic Ori, like I was saying with Paradox Engine, we can do some crazy janky stuff with this. Because this taps add 5 mana. We play this out. So for 7, then we pay 1 more with Cadric. Now we've got 10 mana on the spot. Then we play Paradox Engine, then we play another spell, and hopefully be Paradox Engine. Well, we can actually, because then we'll have 2 Chromatic Ores, which will be 10 mana right there. Then we play Paradox Engine, copy it with Cadric, and then we have 4 mana left over. Hopefully we cast like a spell, because then Paradox Engine is gonna go haywire, and with it, Chromatic Ori is going to untap along with all of our other non-land permanents, which could lead to a potentially crazy and lethal turn on our part. Lethal to our opponents, that is. And then we've got Hell with the Host. I would highly recommend this card along with Chromatic Ori, Vidalcan Ori, Mindslaver, Gonti's Aether Heart, Paradox Engine, and the Immortal Sun. Highly recommend this in this deck because Hell with the Host says at the beginning of combat on your turn, create a token that's a copy of equipped creature, except the token isn't legendary if equipped creature is legendary. That token gains haste. So what we can do is we can use Hell of the Host to make multiple Cadrics, which then means we have multiple opportunities to create multiple tokens of legendary permanents we play. So as time goes on, we'll be able to pay more and more to create more and more tokens that are copies of our legendary permanents as we play them. So would highly recommend this one because of what you can do with it. If you have the mana to, then go for it. Flagstones of Trocare. This is a legendary land, so it will count, which means if you have like a lot of Cadrics out, thanks to Helm of the Host, what you can do is just pay a bunch of mana as Flagstones of Trocare enters the battlefield. Then wait, if it's put into a graveyard from the battlefield. So if you have something that sacrifices a bunch of lands, sacrifice all those tokens that are copies of Flagstones of Trocare. Also, you'll have like a bunch of mana, because you'll have all those copies. But if you're able to sacrifice, wait, I didn't think this through because it didn't. I thought it was when it enters the battlefield, but if it said when it enters the battlefield, you would have been able to get all your planes cards onto the battlefield tapped. Why does it say when it goes into the graveyard? That's so stupid. But what you can do is you can go haywire with Nykthos Shrine to Nyx, because we are creating tokens that are copies of our legendary permanents. They're keeping the mana costs and everything with them. So our devotion is going to go haywire. So with Nykthos, if we copy it a bunch, we'll be able to pay 2 to get God knows how much mana. Mana equal to the amount of devotion to the color that we choose. and our devotion to a color is the number of mana symbols of that color and the mana cost of permanents we control. And if we have like 6 or like 7, like 12 or so red mana symbols in the mana cost of permanents we control, with 2 Nykthos Shrine Nixes, that could be 24 red mana right there. Spinerock Knoll, Hideaway, we're going to be dealing more than 7 damage within a turn thanks to what we're doing. So Hideaway will be easy to get off. Windburst Kites, we're definitely going to be attacking with 3 more creatures within a turn. So Hideaway is easy to get off as well. And then we got 23 basic plains cards and 23 basic mountains. And with that said, the end of this busted commander, Cadric Soul Kindler. Sorry if my brain was a bit scrambled there, but other than that, please leave a like and subscribe. I'd like to go back to 74 and keep going upward, not downward. So just do me that small favor if you will, please. And if you would also be so kind to comment on this video and leave feedback. I like feedback from you guys, shows me you care for the channel. Also, as you're commenting, you can make an EDH request. First come, first serve on that stuff. Even if the commander is already featured on this channel, if you want like a specific style of that commander that I have not dedicated to that commander that is featured on this channel, that is perfectly acceptable as an EDH request. Just make sure it's not like that the commander you want covered hasn't already been featured on this channel, is what I'm saying. I don't want like do-overs of another episode that I've already done. But if you want like Voltron Ramos or something like that, just say so. And I will accept that request and I will get to it in my next episode. In order of requests, of course. So first come, first serve. So comment, make an EDH request. Share this video along with other videos found on my channel. Watch them first. Just so you know, you can find out what you want to share with your friends, so they can receive guidance from yours truly. And also hit the notification bell. That way you don't miss another one of my videos and upcoming content on this channel. And with that said, I will see you all Monday.